Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ceres Podcast. Today is a special episode. I'm handing things over to Jamie Russo, part of our Ceres field training team, who's out there helping fish and chip shops across Scotland get the very best out of our products. This episode is part of the Ceres Roundtable series, where we bring together real operators to talk about real experiences. But this one's got a twist, as everybody on the podcast is from Scotland. Jamie's sitting down with three outstanding Scottish fish and chip shop operators: Stuart Atkinson of North Street Fish and Chip Shop in Forfar, Murray Watson of the Carron Fish Bar in Stonehaven, and Carron Catering, and Eddie Thompson of the Principal Café in Galston. They tackle it all, from customer behaviour and online orders to rising costs, staffing, the great debate of fresh chilled fish versus frozen at sea. What comes through loud and clear is that Scotland's fish and chip industry is alive and kicking, full of passion, full of community, pride and quality. And before we get going, we've published two great case studies on Murray's new venture and Eddie's fish and chip shop at the Principal Café. They're on our website. Their links will be in the show notes. So if you want to know more about Eddie and Murray, just visit our website, or the links will be in the show notes. We've also been working hard, freshening up our social media. Our old Facebook discussion group is now a Facebook page. It means we can share updates, content and news in a cleaner, more focused way. We've also got a Ceres Newsfeed on Facebook. So news will be on news, podcast will be on podcast, and Ceres products and Ceres case studies will all be through Ceres. So it just helps keep things cleaner. It stops a lot of traffic going through one place. Also, if you're here because you want to learn and you want to do great, we've got a quick reminder. The fact is, running a fish and chip shop is hard work. It's also a numbers game, and that's why we've built the Ceres calculators. They are free tools. They're there to help you work out everything from gross profit to labour costs, VAT costs, you name it. They just take the guesswork out so you can focus on frying and making money. You know, we've mentioned it many times, but a good friend of mine says an old boss of his taught him that profit is made on the cutting board, and there is a lot to be said about that. You make sales when you're open and profit when you're closed. And also, don't forget the Ceres deep fry cleaner. It's not just another cleaning product. It's almost like a peace of mind in a tub. It's insurance in a bucket. It keeps your fryers running smoothly, efficiently. It helps prevent breakdowns. It just saves you money in every way, shape or form. It's fantastic practice to keep your fryers in this sort of clean condition. Have it before you need it. Don't wait until you've got 3 years of grime built up on those pans. Do a pan monthly, and what you want to see is that you'll be spending less on electric, less on oil. Your food will be crispier. Your probes will be cleaner. You'll get better recovery on your fryers. It's a no-brainer. Finally, make sure you're signed up to our WhatsApp announcement group, or even better, the Ceres mailing list, where everything goes out first. We've got loads of competitions, offers and special giveaways lined up from now all the way up to Christmas. You do not want to miss out. We don't spam. It's just good stuff straight to your inbox. You'll find all the links in the show notes. All right, let's jump into this episode with Jamie Russo and three brilliant Scottish operators right here on the Ceres Podcast.
Thank you very much for joining me today, guys. How are we all doing?
Good,
very good.
Yeah, very good, thanks.
So, as many of you all know, I have recently joined Ceres as a field training specialist covering all of Scotland. I've already been out on the road, got to see some fantastic shops, brilliant operators. But I was speaking to Stelios and I asked if we could do a regional podcast which highlights the differences within the UK, Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and showcase the differences in Scotland to the rest of the UK. But I think it's also going to highlight some of the differences inside Scotland as well. We've got some shops from all across Scotland. So I think the best way to kick this off is if you guys introduce yourself to the listener. You've never been on the podcast before, so it'd be good to hear a little bit about you guys. Who'd like to start us off?
I'll go first, yeah. Hi, I'm Stuart Atkinson. I've worked in this industry all my life. I grew up in a fish and chip shop. Mum and Dad used to live above their shop, as I live above mine now. So I've done this all my days. It's about all I know, really. I run the North Street Chip Shop in Forfar, and I've been here for the past 37 years. And I'm just looking forward to finding out a little bit more about the differences in Scotland, because the East Coast and the West Coast are completely different.
Brilliant. Cheers, Stuart.
I'll go next then. I'm Murray Watson. I'm the owner of the Carron Fish Bar in Stonehaven. We've, as a family business, had it for 14 years, but we've got background history in hospitality in all sectors, kind of bars, restaurants, hotels, even salons, ice cream shops, kind of the whole shebang. The family business is was my parents, myself, my brother, and now it's got my nephew involved. It's also got my partner involved as well. So we've kind of got all of us working together. I wouldn't say in peace and harmony, but we're all working together for the common goal. I mean, yeah, it's now my chance as I took over the family business 2 years ago to kind of really run the show.
I'm Eddie Thompson for the Principal Café in Galston, Ayrshire. I've been in fish and chips probably approaching nearly 20 years now. Started off as a catty boy and moved into frying. An award-winning fish and chip shop that closed its doors in 2023. So I've been at the Principal Café now for 2 years. My daughter, my son and my wife. It's a community chippy. It's been in the community for over 100 years. So everything we dare and do, we try and keep it traditional. We use fresh, local and modern products just to keep it up to date.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. How have you guys all found trade this year?
So.
I think for me, the weather, comparable to last year, has majorly helped. You know, we're right on the seaside. You see the sea from 100 yards away from a shop. So it majorly has helped boost back to what I believe our numbers should have been last year. And so it's kind of Aberdeen as a whole, with the oil kind of disappearing from it over the last few years, has been a strange one. But this year, we've kind of back to probably not quite pre-COVID numbers, because, you know, inflation and prices changes that would take over-wise. But the percentages are there again to where we're happy and where we once were.
Yeah.
My trade's, I say, increased for last year. I don't know if that's to do with winning a couple of small awards or maybe even make my own batter for Ceres.
Yeah.
I'm probably a mixture. And the weather too is a big factor. I'm not in the seaside, but I'm only about 16 miles away from the seaside, so the weather does make a difference. And the weather has been not too bad this year. So trade for me has been quite steady and up for last year.
Yeah, brilliant. Has your customers spoken about the batter? Has it been the publicity side of things, or has it been more the product?
The product in the whole, it's a different taste. It's got its own original taste, I think. People have said that. And obviously, if you put it through your social media and that, it brings attention to it and everybody wants to try it. So it does help. But I think my numbers have definitely went up for I've had one, but
yeah.
Definitely have.
Yeah. Brilliant. Sure, obviously so. And enough to make it worthwhile for you, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. But I suppose because I've been in this industry that long, I've seen so many business cycles in all our businesses that we've had over the years that, you get good years, you get bad years. I mean, but for us, hot weather in the summer is the kiss of death. It's I took bad because my first shops were down in Arbroath by the seaside, and the sun comes out and you rub your hands with glee because this is going to be a belter, and I can't get that out of my psyche. So I'm standing here in Forfar, not too far away from the seaside, but there is this Mass X. There's no doubt about it. And if we get a series of hot days in the middle of summer, then it does really hit our trade. And I kind of take it on the chin because I was that used to when the sun came out, you were busy. But even though I've been here 37 years, it's still great. Yeah. But having said that, our trade is quite steady, that, we don't have massive summertime peaks, or huge winter troughs. It's pretty much regular all year round, which is great from a staffing point of view.
Absolutely.
You can have the same team all year round. You don't have to bring people in that aren't really interested in your business just to get you over the summer hump sort of thing. It works for us, but I tell it how it is. It hasn't been the best of years this year for us, but, it happens.
Yeah.
And I've given up trying to work out why.
Yeah. Brilliant. So have any of you noticed a shift in your customer behaviour? Are people trading down, visiting less? Are they spending differently?
What I've found is that, despite all this talk about cost of living and price awareness, it's the big ticket stuff that's moving. It's the lower ticket stuff that isn't moving so much. But people want fish. I mean, last night we were really busy last night, and 85% of the turnover came from fish and chips.
That's my biggest seller too, is my fish. I've moved from frozen at sea. I was fresh fish, but I moved to frozen at sea, and people are starting to really enjoy the size of it. It's a bigger flake because it's a lot thicker, and the angel cut had it. So that's my biggest seller is the fish. Customers really do enjoy it.
I think for me, there's probably not much of a change in the volume the average spend is, but we definitely are online ordering much more. Even so much so now that when a customer goes onto Google, it doesn't have my shop phone number anymore as a direct line number that goes to an automated service where they'll now get a text message saying with a link, or they can get diverted to the shop. But we found by that it's helped smooth things out on our busy nights. For the customers, we don't always have to have someone specifically on the phone, and it's just helped. The tickets come in, they're all pre-written, they've got exactly what they want, so there's no confusion in their order, or there shouldn't be. And so that's probably helped us a lot, kind of just streamline things, which in the summer season when my shop is busy, it's extremely busy. And so to make things more streamlined, help the staff out, is a huge bonus for us, because in winter time, as Stuart says, he worked on the coast and you get used to the sun coming out. In winter time, we still can never quite get used to there is a drop. And fortunately, I take back a lot of staff from previous years. They come back over the summer at university, and I've got into the habit of doing that now, because then it automatically drops my staffing levels at the right time, just to kind of get used to what's going to now be the new normal for the next 5-6 months.
But it's interesting that we see some shops trying to push things away from fish and chips, but it's still at the top for the three of yous. Have you all adapted to online ordering and trying to push online ordering for your customers? And does that help see people come through the door?
We have definitely tried to push online ordering. We make a point of letting customers know it's a wee bit cheaper if you order online. We've got a digital loyalty scheme as well. And last night was the first time we actually had more business online than we had coming in through the door or on the telephone. And it was a freak last night. It was a bit of a freak result, I have to say, because normally it runs at about 20-25% over the week. But last night we actually took more online than we did over the phone or with walk-ins, which is quite incredible.
Yeah.
I only do a kind of call and collect. They can phone up, make their order, then they can collect it. We give them a time slot. I've seen that increasing over the last month, because the shop's quite busy too, so they don't want to be waiting.
Yeah.
So they'll do a call and collect. Quite a lot of regulars that do that now.
Yeah.
Just call and collect, so it's just a matter of coming in and it's ready.
Yeah. Obviously, like Murray says, if you've got phone orders, it's taking that member of staff away. Is going online something that you will look to do, or is that something you're avoiding?
I'm trying to avoid it just now because the shop's too busy to kind of cope with it just now. I need to sort something out where I could arrange to have it to happen, to put in place. But right now the shop's just too busy, especially on a Friday and Saturday. Yeah. It's just too busy to cope with, I think.
I don't really like using technology for technology's sake, but can I just say from my experience with the online ordering, if you could steer some of those pre-ordering customers onto an online platform, then you're not wasting time, and not wasting time, but taking time answering the phone. And also it's prepaid. They come in, the order's paid for, they just pick it up and they're out the door. And it saves a lot of time. I think you could actually probably end up increasing volume by just the time efficiencies in online ordering.
Yeah.
The average spend for online ordering is up versus someone who orders by phone, definitely. I kind of speak to the guys who run my online ordering service. And they do give you some lovely statistics here and there. Some of them are just generic, some of them are for your shop. But the average person spends £10 to £15 more online than they do if they walk into my store. The sad thing is that we can all be honest that fish and chips, as a trend, as a food trend just now, is for an older generation. Online ordering, about 61% of our customers is over the age of 50 placing orders, because it's just an old traditional thing. I think that if you go down the route of using online ordering, it does simplify things. It does help take away someone from the phone. We used to have two people up the back because one person was predominantly there to answer the phone. It's helped us save a member of staff. If you speak to a lot of the online ordering companies, they've adapted a lot since COVID days when we first went into it. We've changed who we use since then to now they can have time slots, and you can have any amount of number of time slots. When it first kind of came about and everyone was pushing it through COVID to try and get something up and running, they were very basic, whereas now they're much more advanced and easier and user-friendly to kind of go with.
Well, it's interesting that statistic 61% is over the age of 50. Do you guys struggle to get younger people through the door?
Well, I've kind of adapted my menu. I've kept it traditional, fish and chips and puddings and that, but I've added a lot of sides and I've seen them really increase. It's just like an extra add-on. The younger kind of generation, they like the sides and they like those silly things, but we like beef fritters. I think the wife's making macaroni fritters later on. Just put it on social media. I guess the kind of younger generation and seem happy with a lot of the sides. Yeah. And a lot of them are just like an add-on, so it gives you extra. Like the fish and chips and the halloumi fries or the mozzarella sticks or whatever. It creates something there for the younger generation.
I think in my store, if I look on a Friday night, the people who walk through and come in and walk in a customer and orders is definitely of the older generation versus people who use the online ordering. You know, I spoke about how 61% already use online ordering still, but the average age of my shop it'd be probably closer to 70% would be of the older generation. In the summertime when there's families about, that's fine. They're spending down the seaside. They're coming to get their kids some chips whilst they're building a sandcastle, try to feed them something to stop the moaning in the hot sun as well. But I think if I look at the amount of people who are just standing inside my shop, it would definitely be over 50s most of the time, because the younger generation want everything touch of a button, quick and easy. So they kind of just want to order. They're not quite as interested in the interaction side of things. They don't want to come in and stand and talk to you kind of like it used to be 10 years ago. It's more now a case of my food's there. I go in, they say their name. It's already got the salt and vinegar written on the ticket. We box it and they go and you say thank you, have a nice evening. And they're just as happy with that. Sometimes they're on the phones and they don't even lift their head up from that to kind of even acknowledge it. But it's going to be a strange one to see how in the next few years with advancement of AI, we've seen and heard about it. I think it's Sophie, the AI calling system's called, how that changes things to make even less interaction with the customer. It does worry me slightly, because there was points in time where your customers would come in and spend the 15 minutes chatting to you non-stop whilst you were frying, whilst they were ordering their food, to are they even going to want to even step inside the door? Some people might just put collection hatches where they don't even have to step inside.
Yeah, our business has always been kind of like family tea time business. So to talk about age profile is a bit harder, because we do tend to get mum and dad coming in and buying a meal for the whole family. So to get a feel and age profile, but so I'd say predominantly we are looking at adults rather than teenager type customers that we get, but these adults are coming and buying 4 and 5 meals at a time, which is great. The thing about the community side, I think that's where we see more of the older customers, because they're coming in and they're not just wanting their tea, they're wanting somebody to speak to, because bless them, you might be the last person to speak to that day because they're going back home to house on their own, and that's what they're wanting. They're come in, they're not interested in the speed side of things. They are wanting to see you, have a wee chat. And maybe that's why we think in our heads that we've got maybe an older age profile than what we actually do have, because the young ones come in, order something, and say their face is back in their phone, they get their food and they're gone, and they haven't registered. Whereas Mrs. Smithby up the road comes in and talks about the weather and what son's been up to or what the grandkids will be, and you remember her. So I think we maybe oversell that we're an old-fashioned industry from the point of view of our customers. I just think we maybe just remember the people that come in for a chat, which do tend to be the older ones.
Yeah,
that's a good thing because it keeps it in the community. Can people come in and they want to, as you say, Stuart, they want to have a talk and a blather, because it's a bit like in here in the Principal Café. It's like a social club sometimes on a Friday and a Saturday. You can hardly hear orders coming and going, but luckily the wife's got a big strong voice and she's no longer shouting her orders through. So it's great when you get a minute and you look over the range and you see them all talking, having a laugh, or maybe had a drink in there and a good laugh and a blather. That's what you want in your shop, Ken. A wee bit of spirit there.
I always remember my first shop. After I took over my first shop, one of the ladies that was working there at the time, she'd been in the shop for a few years, and she said, "Now, Stuart, you've got to remember, this place is the hub of the community."
Yep.
And it was right, everybody came in, and it was a meeting place, and also somewhere where people could have a moan about stuff, or just like I say, like a social club. And that phrase stuck with me, hub of the community.
Yep, that's it.
perfect. Well, during the summer, we've seen wet fish prices skyrocket, and supply issues across the country left some fish and chip shops without any fish. Were any of you guys left fishless? Has that resolved itself, and have prices settled since summer?
Well, I'd say fresh fish, because that's how the fishermen would say it up here, whereas I know the industry like to use the word wet fish because predominantly they're frozen at sea. Am I the only one that's using fresh fish?
Yeah.
I'm frozen at sea.
Frozen at sea.
Well, for me then, there was a couple of weeks. Yeah, there was a couple of hard weeks. I think I've been very loyal to my fish merchant for a number of years, stuck by them some really good and the bad times. And as my merchant would say, I'm not one to moan. I don't contact my suppliers much. I only contact them if I've got an issue, and they know it's a real issue if I've decided to phone them, because I understand in business we all have good and bad days. And there was probably 2 weekends where we really struggled. But because I've stuck by these guys so much, the limited number of fish they did have, they put towards me, because I'm not one to complain. I'll if the price skyrockets, unfortunately, I will take and pay the price. Sometimes I've had to pass it on my customers if it's been a massive increase. Sometimes I've kept it to myself and thought, we'll ride this out and see how long I can ride it out. I did, for the first time in years, buy a couple of cases of frozen at sea, just because I was going to struggle to get through a weekend. And I knew I got the heads up on the Tuesday, and they said, look, you're probably going to come the weekend, we're going to not have enough fish for you in the height of summer. And I had to probably use 5-6 stone over the summer period just to kind of get me through. And although, frozen sea is great, they're, when you from the likes of Norway and Iceland, and their advancements in some of the fishing is fantastic. I can't sit here and say to my customers, when we've got like a Peterhead market 40, 50 miles away from my doorstep, where fishing is a massive part of the heritage up here, say that's what we're selling and they'd be happy with it.
So you'd say it's probably more the perception of frozen at sea rather than the quality side of it? I
prefer fresh fish. You grow up on it, you understand it. I think it's got a different taste. And it definitely does have a different taste, because I think we can all agree, depending on the time of the year, I think we're all selling haddock here, what the haddock is actually feeding on does affect the taste of it. So for me, the texture of it, the handling of it, the actual major use of it, the quantity that I'm going through in the height of summer, it's just a winner for me every time. And
did you see a big difference between your wet fish price and your frozen at sea price?
Definitely so. The big time where there was the shortages, and that's where the peaks in prices were at the same time. So yeah, I think gone are the days where it used to be nearly half the price to buy frozen at sea versus buying fresh fish. But I am probably now sitting about the same price. There's maybe £1 or £2 a kilo. It's the way the price is a little bit different to buying the cases versus the kilos that we pay. But I don't really worry about that too much. The customers know what they're expecting. As I said, we've had the shop for 14 years. There's a certain standard that the customers expect when we serve our fish and chips. And we have a lot of fishermen come in And I think their families coming in as well, I think they'd be very disheartened to see if we went on the frozen at sea at any point in time, really.
Eddie, I'm curious, what made you jump to frozen at sea?
Well, it was just basically, I wasn't happy with the quality. I wasn't getting the quality, and I wasn't getting the fish supplied from the same boat. So one day it could be from one boat, and it was good quality and good size. The next day it was too up and down. And the prices of it sometimes it's just, for what I was getting, I wasn't putting up with it. So I tried frozen at sea, and I put it to my customers, and they prefer it. And they prefer a bigger flake. It's a lot more work involved in it, processing it, frosting it, and preparing it. They prefer it, and it's really taken off. It's as I said, it's my biggest seller in my shop. 2 sizes, 10 to 12 ounce and 6 to 8 ounce. There's still shortages in the frozen at sea, not just the fresh fish. So that was a problem that occurred with me too. So I had to kind of meet up with the reps, sometimes monthly. And I had to bulk buy just to make sure I get my sizes so that the same products going out to the customers. So I've had to do all that, and the prices are still increasing. I think they increased another £10 a box last week. So they still are increasing. But my customers, great feedback from them. They're happy with the frozen at sea. Customers are happy with it. So can't complain.
Yeah, I switched over to frozen at sea probably about 20, maybe even more than that, 20 plus years ago now. There was talk of massive reductions in the catch allowable in the North Sea, and there was a real prospect of us just not being able to get enough fresh haddock, or wet haddock, should I say. And I think it was Colbeck's that realised that we were in a bit of a bind, and they moved into supplying frozen at sea fish. And once I started using it, for me, it was the consistency that sold it to me. I was the same.
Yep, definitely.
And the wonderful thing about the fresh haddock, when it's at its best, it's absolutely amazing. But it's getting it at its best. That was my problem. Like you said, you had quality issues, and I certainly suffered from quality issues. Maybe where I was sourcing my fish, the supply chain was too long, and it spent too much time getting itself to me. Maybe Murray has a more direct link. But we tried a number of merchants, and it was patchy. Some days were good and other days were bad, and the frustrating thing is you buy it in for the weekend, and that's when you got the ropey stuff. It was like they cleaned out the fridges for the weekend, and we were hoping that we were busy over the weekend to shift it. But with the frozen at sea, I'm in control. I defrost it when I need it, and I don't defrost it if I'm not going to need it, and I can keep a consistent product. That's why I use it. It was never about price. Once we made the jump, it was about consistency of product.
I think the same as potatoes, you can get good and bad quality. Merchants will happily go and source good quality potatoes at high prices, and they can also source for some shops which are happy to use the lower quality, which we obviously aren't, and they'll do that. So it's the same with the fish. There has been times where there's obviously not the best because it is a fresh product. There's always going to be something that could go wrong with it. It's wild as well, so it's not farmed, so you can't always get the 100% consistency. But when we've stuck by, we kind of get first picks of everything that's out there, just because how loyal we are and the fact that we know it's a major part of our business. And whilst some shops might sell 1-2 stone a day, in the height of summer where we're selling 10 to 15 stone, they know that we need it, and we need to make sure it's their quality, because with it being a seaside town, it's a little bit different with a local shop where you might 52 weeks a year might come in, and maybe 1 week they have a bad fish, and you say, look, sorry about that. Next week I can have sometimes only one chance to impress a customer, because that might be their one time in Stonehaven. Hopefully, if they're just visiting from maybe nearby, they'll come back week on week or month on month. But it's sometimes I've got one chance to sometimes impress people from around the world, just because of the customer base in my shop. I've got to impress people from all over the world, and I've got my one chance to show them what fish and chips truly is.
I think, as Murray said earlier, the frozen at sea, how it's processed now is the minute they catch it, and it's frozen within 2-3 hours. It's not just a boat, it's a factory it's in. and it's processed that much quicker. So all the nutrients and everything's getting locked in. So it is a better product. I don't know what it's like, Stuart, 20 years ago, if it was still as good as it is now. Are you notice the changes now with all the modern technology in the boats?
I would say that the quality gets better year on year as they learn more little tricks on how to get the best out of the fish. But for me, it was always more consistent product. And when you're dealing with regular customers who come in every week, they're expecting something, they're expecting a standard. And you've got to maintain a consistent quality and consistency for regular repeat customers, And although I found it interesting and challenging working with wet fish, it certainly simplified my operation when we went on frozen at sea. And I don't make any secret of the fact that's what we use, and if people are interested, I tell them exactly why I use it. And it's never been about price. It's been about consistency of product and being in complete control over how fresh that fish is going to be and not having to second guess how long it's been on the boat and how long it's been in the merchant's chill before it finally gets to me. That's always been the thing about frozen at sea for me.
When obviously the price of haddock went up, did you guys adjust your prices straight away, or like you said, Murray, sometimes you absorb some of the cost? Did you guys absorb the cost for a while, or straight away did you pass that on to your customer?
Well, I absorbed it for maybe a month or two. Then I kept close contact with my rep, and they gave me a heads up saying the price are going to increase again. So then I adjusted my prices. I think this year I've maybe adjusted my prices twice, and I'll not be adjusting them again to next year if they keep increasing. So twice this year I've adjusted my prices. But you do try to absorb it. It comes to the point where you really need to do the calculation, say, no, I really need to pass this on to the customers because you can't keep doing it.
We haven't got bottomless pockets, and we can't afford to subsidise the whole of Scotland and give them fish at below market price. The price goes up. I don't do a knee-jerk reaction. I wait and see, is this just a spike or is it a trend? And after a couple of months, it's obviously a trend, so we need to start thinking about adjusting prices. And also, you've got that wee bit of wriggle room that I've usually got about a month's worth of fish sat in the freezer just to make sure that I have got it. So I'm working with the older stock as I'm aware that prices are going up. And if they creep back, that's fine. We don't need to put our prices up, but if it goes up, then we have to. And I've put fish up twice this year as well, and possibly we'll put it up again because there are products costing more, and that's just the way it is. It's market forces, and if you can afford to subsidise the price rises that we've had in fish over the past year, you were doing very nicely before, I have to say. You were doing very nicely. Some might even argue, and I do say this to my customers when they do say about prices, I said, look, if I could afford to absorb this, I ripped you off last week.
Yeah.
That's the simple fact. It's a competitive market. Those are the prices, and we work to them. And if I could take this on the chin, then I robbed you blind last month.
I think the thing is that the customers notice the fish price more than anything else. Your puddings, your burgers, your sausages, they might go up. You can throw 10p, 20p on them and no one really notices. But as soon as the fish price goes up, people will come in. Quite often we have people that come in with the exact amount of money for a fish supper. So they'll come in every Friday and the next week they might come in and it's gone up 20 pence. Oh, I've got the exact change. Well, the price has gone up. I have had some pretty bad prices this summer, and I've had 10 days or 2 weeks of a very good price where I got my money back from it. On a whole, it's kind of balanced out throughout the year, and I've put my fish prices up twice. I'm unlikely to put them up again unless my price goes up again. It's the same as anything. It's trying to explain sometimes to the customer the whole way down the line the price has gone up. I haven't put my prices up to put more money in my pocket. I put my prices up to get the same GP as what I once had. Now that GP doesn't just go straight to my pocket. Some of it goes, a lot of it goes to the tax man. But it also goes to me invest in my staff my shop, making sure it's the level it's always been, and make sure I'm investing and keeping the shop there for a future. I've got 15 members of staff. 2 or 3 are nearly full-time, actually probably 4 just now. I've got to make sure that they've still got a roof over their head and food in their kids' stomachs. So we've got to make sure that I can't just absorb the cost 24/7. There's sometimes I've absorbed prices, and sometimes I think, well, I've got bills to pay at the end of the week. My customers have got to pay what I've got to pay. It's just got to be passed on down the line.
Absolutely. I think it'd be interesting. What size is all of your medium or standard fish and chips, and how much are you guys charging for that?
Well, my large is 10 to 12 ounce. I'm charging just now for a single. That's one piece of fish. 10 to 12, 9.80. 11.80 a supper. That's with chips. For the small, that's a 6 to 8 ounce. 6.90 single, and for the supper, 80.
For my standard fish supper, which is a 5 to 6 ounce piece of fish and 10 ounce portion of chips, I'm $11.50. We do a jumbo, we do a small. The jumbo fish supper, off the top of my head, if I remember rightly, I'm sitting at, I think, $14.50 for a jumbo fish supper. That's a 10 ounce plus piece of fish. We do smalls as well, they're $8.50, and we also do kids as well. And it's just, that's, as I say, unlikely to change. But I think jumbos especially, we're the only place, I think, in the town that does them. And as much as I would like to maybe stop doing them, I sell enough of them to keep it worthwhile. Really do sell a lot of them, which is, I'd like to always streamline my menu more, but that's just how it is just now.
We're using a 6 to 8 ounce as our standard fish for a fish supper, and we're at $11.40 for that. And that's the bulk of our business. We don't do a jumbo. We do a small fish supper, which is about 5 ounces. I can't remember how much I charged for them. See, in the olden days when I used to ring up the prices on the till, I could remember every price. But now we've had EPOS. I couldn't, people come into the shop and say, how much is a fish supper? And it's like I'm being cheeky. I turn around and I look up at the menu. I don't know. It's like my dad's phone number. I pick up the phone, I press dad, and I phone him. I don't know the number, but in the old days when you dialed up, you knew these numbers off by heart, and it's the same with my prices. I don't know what you have. Yeah. Until getting to the office and the spreadsheets come out and saying, and then we have a look at it. But people come in, how much is a fish supper? And that's so much. I just can't remember. But that's what we are at the moment. $11.40 for a standard fish supper. Yeah. And the other thing you need to remember when you're thinking about your prices is, if a piece of fish goes up by £1, you need £1.20 to get that back. Yeah. To stand still.
Exactly. No, absolutely. But it's interesting to see that along the east, where Murray and Stuart, you are quite similar on price. Obviously, slightly bigger bit of fish that you're giving Stuart, but on the west, where you are, Eddie, you're considerably cheaper than the other two guys. Would you say that's the average price in the area?
I'd probably say that's an average price in the area.
Yeah. No, very interesting to see the change there from the east to the west.
I think Colbeck's used to do a price survey and years ago, and that used to reflect that as well, that fish and chips on the West Coast used to be that wee bit cheaper than on the East Coast. I've got this theory that the closer you get to the sea, the more expensive the fish seems to get. But
yeah. No, absolutely. But we'll move on from there. What have you guys found to be your single biggest challenge over the last 12 months? And how have you adapted to that?
I think with minimum wage going up, wages went up in the shop. Minimum wages go up. That doesn't happen in the shop. It goes across the board. It pushes the price of every product up because down the line, they've got to pay their staff more. The merchants, the filleters, people at the market who's landing the fish, the fishermen, all. So what happens is when the customers think they're going to have more money in their pockets, that's what the government gives the idea of. In reality, the cost of living goes up too. Why does that do that? Well, because it means that they gain more tax from us, more VAT from us. That's how the government works out. The average Joe thinks that because their minimum wages went up, I'm earning, instead of £300 a week, I'm earning £350 a week. Great. But all that means is that we're going to collect more tax and more VAT. And try to explain to the customers that as soon as minimum wage went up, our prices went up. It was to say, look, it's not to put more money in our pocket. It's to make sure our margins stay the same, so that my business still survives. So 5-10 years' time, my business still standing here.
I think you're absolutely right there, Murray, that the politicians go on the TV and say how they've raised people's living standards by the successive increase in national minimum wage. But as I point out to my customers, it's not that politician on the TV that's done this, it's you, my customers, who are paying for it.
Yeah, it's exactly it.
And then you also think about the hidden costs, the national insurance, the pensions, the holiday entitlements, and the fact that we can't reclaim sick pay anymore. These are invisible, but they all cost, and as a way to focus the mind, I reckon that if you've got somebody standing in your shop, they're costing you 30 pence a minute.
Yeah, it soon adds up, doesn't it? It soon adds up.
You've got 5-6 staff on it, sure adds up very quickly.
Keeping off a pale money.
Yeah. When you get rid of some staff, but no, it is, it's hard. And I think when we have a lot of people in the summertime come to us at the seaside resort, as you say, Stuart, fish gets more expensive as you get closer to the sea is kind of the way of how it does go. Sometimes try to explain to them that this is the reason why the price is, even just down to the thing. We've got a farm foods around the corner from us, and someone will come and ask for a can of juice. What's a can of juice from me? I go, it's £2. That's how much I charge. And I go, that's ridiculous. I can get a can of farm foods, or I can get a can of Asda for £1, £1.10, £1.20, whatever the price may be just now. And I'll say, that's great. Now, I buy 6 cases of Coke a week, we'll say. They're buying 600,000 cases a week between distributed between all their stores. Who do you think is getting a better deal and getting better margins?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they don't see it like that. They see it as, well, they can charge 80 pence less. Why can't you? Because I'm not getting the same buyer price that they do. It's the same with, Stelios' absolute favourite place in the world to speak about, McDonald's. They can charge their rates and stuff like that because the volume they buy it at. They've worked it out well. They've got a marketing team and a buyer's team that will do the absolute best, and they've got a big influence in a market. I think it's Challenger potatoes that they were buying for a long period of time. There was whole fields grown specifically just for them. And that's what happens when you've got the buyer's bonus of buying hundreds of thousands of cases, tons, whatever metric unit you want to kind of use. That's the difference. And sometimes passing it on to the customers, they're a bit unaware of a small business, which we all are. We're all small family businesses, don't have the same margins for profit or error that some of the big companies do.
I think this year, if your shop's doing quite well, I think you've got to really stay on top of the reps, because you're always chasing up stock. Maybe you're putting your order and it doesn't appear. You're always chasing up reps all the time. And the last couple of months it's settled, but there's a lot of just carrier bags, simple things like that. They just weren't there. The availability of them just wasn't there. So you had to maybe go somewhere else. That was my biggest challenge this year. Just settled a wee bit now, but definitely beginning the year, it's terrible. Just sourcing different things from different people. Using your own time up trying to source them.
I think with that, do you not find that if we treated our customers the same way as in, well, you just haven't got it on the lorry, it's just not in the bag, would we get away with it? The answer is no. And it's very frustrating because they just say, well, it's not there. And we just got to accept it sometimes.
I mean, I did notice that, Eddie, like you say, that it was the start of the year we had this quite a lot, and I just started carrying more and more stock. So that I wasn't stressing out, if there wasn't the right kind of chip bags on the lorry this week. Guess I've got enough for another couple of weeks, rather than being hand-to-mouth and stressing out about a delivery arriving. I started building in a buffer of a few weeks. I mean, that's why I normally run about 3 to 4 weeks worth of fish in my freezers, so that if the lorry doesn't turn up, so what? I can manage another couple of weeks. And I found, although it's money tied up, it reduced the stress level,
Yeah.
And it also meant that I was always using the same bags and boxes and all the rest of it, because I had that buffer stock, which is probably music to Colbeck's ears, that I've got all this stock tied up.
Sell it back to them.
But I kind of took it on the chin and thought, right, but it made running the business a lot easier in that respect, that if it wasn't on the lorry, it wasn't a problem. You know, it was only going to be a problem in a fortnight.
That's okay if you've got room to store it.
I'm fortunate, yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, when they've got no stock, we're blaming you, Stuart, is what we're saying.
Oh, don't Stuart.
Come on,
He's got it.
Yeah, exactly. The auction starts now.
I think that leads nicely on to the next question, which is if any of you have had difficulty staffing your shops, because I think that's maybe what some of the issue is with some of the suppliers, and that it's sometimes a staffing issue, and also the quality of your applicants. Are you still getting good quality staff in which are happy, willing to work?
Yes. Just through natural progression, we took on 3 people over the summer. Somebody left for a full-time job, somebody else was off to university, the usual sort of thing. And over the previous 2 or 3 years, we have had a wee bit of a problem recruiting quality. But this time, to my amazement, we had lots of applications and they were all wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It was really hard trying to pick. And we narrowed it down, and I felt quite bad about rejecting some people, because if they'd applied 2 years ago, they'd got the red carpet because they were superb. So just now, that's been good. But anecdotally, apparently our local McDonald's hasn't been recruiting anything like as much as normal. And maybe this is why we had a lot of students looking for work with us, which has worked in our favour. I was also speaking to Callum Richardson at the Bay this summer, and he had a very similar story. He said he'd heard that McDonald's weren't recruiting, and he'd had a very successful recruiting spree as well. So I don't know how you guys have found it.
I've had the same members of staff for going on 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a manager, I've got another 2 full-time flyers plus myself. I've got uni students. As I said before, I've got students that will maybe work for me until come to September, they'll leave. They go away, they go back to uni. Come May, they come back. So every time I need staff, which is May through to September, because it's my peak season, I have already got 4 or 5 members of fully trained staff ready to just step back in. They need 1 week, maybe sometimes just 1 shift to kind of get back into the swing of things, and maybe do their gossiping and catching up with the staff members that they've not spoke to for the last 6-7 months. But next year, I'm probably going to have a bit of an issue. I'm losing 2 or 3 of my kind of major members of staff. One be finished their uni and they're going on to their career. One's away to go and start university. My young flyer, Charlie, he's going to go and start university. He's always wanted to give it a shot and he thought he was going to do it. And then another girl, she's kind of at college just now, and she might leave, she might not. We're kind of playing it by ear, but I'm going to have to go and look to fill their 80 to 100 hours with some new members of staff. So it's probably the first time in about 5 years I'll have to majorly recruit, which isn't just teenagers looking for a part-time job. It's someone I'm looking for more full-time, learn to fly, and I've not dipped my toe in that market for a long time, so I'm kind of waiting to see how it'll go.
Right now I've got a really good team. I said that to the wife the other day there. Shots been quite busy and posting through, and everyone's been going with clockwork. It's mostly family, my son, my daughter. My son's full-time, he's a fryer. My daughter's here, my wife's here, so that's kind of backbone. We've got another 3 or 4 girls. And I find if you start them too young, they're not as eager to work.
Yeah.
You kind of start them from maybe 16, they're a wee bit more mature, fit in better. If you start them kind of younger, they're kind of a wee bit shy and they're a wee bit come out their shell. So we're really a good team just now. I think the youngest girl we've got 16 in the shop now, really 15, sorry. And we've got a really good team. But you can, some really horror stories out there, Ken, where you start these people and you've got to stipulate on a trial basis to try and encourage them through and see if they come out their shell or see if they're eager to learn. Some of them just hound out the house just to get pocket money and want to stand there and do nothing, and it's hard. It's hard to manage them.
You find with the minimum wage constantly rising, especially for the younger ones, that it's harder to motivate and incentivise them, Because I know probably previously if you get past the training, you get an extra 50p, or you can use the wage to kind of push them along. Do you find it harder with the wages going up?
No, it's not just harder, it's just the individual. And it's just really, it's as if they're hounded out to have an income and they're just not really eager to learn. So you've got to manage that properly. You've got to try and encourage them, talk them through the training procedures and to see if they're taking it in, see if they want to do it. And that's how I give them a trial basis. It lets you know if they're capable, and go to give them a kind of interview after it and tell them where their good points were and where their bad points were. Just say, going to let you go kind of thing. And which isn't a nice thing to do to a younger person, but you've got to look after your business and you've got to encourage them in the future, give them plus points and more encouragement, and have a word with their parents, especially if they're younger, like 15. You don't want to put them off looking for another job just because the fish and chip industry isn't suited to them. Because it is a fast pace. Throwing somebody that young age in, dealing with a fast-paced fish and chip shop, it is quite, wow, in their face. Speaking to people on the phone, speaking to people over the counter, being polite, and it is quite an ask. The younger generation, I think, it is tough.
I think when COVID came about, we changed our opening hours to kind of suit the needs of what was going on in the world at the time. We used to be open until 10 o'clock in the summer especially. We cut that back to 8. And as COVID disappeared, we looked into opening hours back up to 10 o'clock. And I just found that the staffing levels were just always going to be hard. The amount of young ones that wanted the night off then, rather than we close at 8, they're finished by 8:30. Quite often, if they've got something on now, if they say, can I leave at 8 o'clock? I say, yeah, we'll stay and tidy up. It's hard to convince them to work later. They have parties for it being the second Tuesday of the month. They have parties for their 16-and-a-half-year birthday.
Halloween parties.
Oh, yeah, the Halloween parties. And then they've got to have just the amount of things they have parties for, the times they need off for. I always say that to them when they first start, look, I very rarely say no to give people time off. But I expect you to work hard, but then, it goes both ways. I've got to give you the time off to be well rested. Please prioritise what is an important party. Don't come to me and tell me you need 2 days off starting tomorrow because you found out someone's having a night out. That's, I've still got a business to run and I can't run the business without you. As much as any one of the owners here, I think we can all say we do the majority of work, because it's not just the work inside the shop we do, it's the work outside the shop we do. Out of the maybe 500 hours of work that's done in my shop, I'm doing 50 of it. So I need over 400 to 450 hours covered by staff. So if you guys are taking time off left, right and centre, it's no use for me. I need someone who's wanting to work hard. And as I've said, I've got 5 years worth of people that have done that. And I'm a little bit intimidated by what's going to happen over the next year.
Yeah, the problem I find, and the youngsters I've got working with me at the moment and the previous intake, they've all been fantastic. But they just haven't got the ability to plan their lives in advance.
They've all got diaries, but they don't use them.
Everybody recognises what I've just said there, because you'll post a rota up and then they'll go, oh, it's my granny's birthday on Tuesday. You've known a year that it's going to be.
You've known all your life.
So, it's not a surprise. So, what we do is we've got a closed Facebook group. I post the weekly rota on a Friday morning, week starting that Sunday for the forthcoming week. And that's now the rota. And up to Friday morning, they've got plenty of time to put in time off requests, first come, first served, and we deal with it. But once it goes on the Facebook group, any shift swaps they have to sort out themselves. Because they probably know what they can do better than I do. They'll know that they can do this swap, they can do that swap. But also, it gets me out of having to apparently pull rank and try and get somebody to come in when they thought they weren't going to be working. But the number of times I get an email Friday morning, I know it's a bit late notice, but... And my wife says, You shouldn't leave it that late. The people like to know what they're doing. I says, no. If they ask for time off, and I've agreed it, they know they're off. End of story.
My wife does a kind of monthly rota. And that gives them a chance to look throughout the month and give them a chance to swap shifts.
Yeah.
Which definitely helps.
I found making up any more than a fortnight in advance an exercise in futility, the number of shift swaps and all the rest of it that happened. So now I just say, right, your time off's guaranteed, you've requested it, you're off, and we take it that way. And once it's posted on the Friday morning, then they have to sort it out themselves amongst one another. And we've done that for a lot of years now, and it works quite well. It does work quite well.
We use, the same as yourself, Jamie, we use RotaCloud. So the staff can put in a request for leave. I still have to chase them up every month to say, has anybody got any holidays? Now, normally I work a month in advance. September and October I never do. September, between people going back to universities and people starting college or universities and their days, I have to adapt a little bit. And then October holidays have started now, is by far my most requested staff holiday. So I just kind of play it by year. Who's going to actually be here? Who can work extra? Who's not? Sometimes people are off uni and can come home from uni. So there's some of the people that work over the summertime, they'll come back. But generally, as a rule of thumb, use that system. And it works well. They do have to be chased to put in their holidays. And this might be holidays that they've known about for a year. They're going away to next year to Tenerife. And you think, put it in now. Put it in as soon as you know the dates, put it in. I don't know if it happens to you guys, though. Sometimes the problem isn't actually the people working for me, it's the parents. They'll say, well, we've got a week off. We're going to take a week off in October. Well, when? Oh, well, mum and dad haven't booked anything yet. Well, that's no use for me. I can't say you can't go on holiday to Lanzarote. Why? Because if I was getting a free holiday to Lanzarote, I'd be there in a heartbeat myself. Mm-hmm. You need to understand that they could easily just as quit and go on holiday, or they could just phone in sick and go on holiday. So sometimes I do say to them, please go ask your parents if they've got any holidays, and also tell them if they have any surprise holidays to text me, and I'll make sure I'll put you on the rota, but also take into account in my head, I know you're already going to be off. I've just kept it as a surprise.
Yes, I had a wee chuckle to myself last week. One of my employees put in a time off request for December. I knew he was going to ask for this time off in December in March when I was speaking to his mum in Tesco's. He was telling me the holiday that she's booked, and she says, has he asked for time off yet? I goes, no. She says, well, it's such the so-and-so. I says, well, thanks for the heads up, because I'll be needing a few days off that week as well, so it might be a bit tight. And then lo and behold, last week, in comes the email, I was wondering if...
He probably thinks he's well organised as well. That's the sad part.
He really thinks
he's on the ball.
Oh, brilliant. So moving on, lunchtime and evening, are you all open lunchtimes, and how are you finding lunchtimes compared to evenings?
I've kicked lunchtimes into touch COVID time, and we've never gone back.
Yeah.
I'm just open at 4 p.m. to 8 p.m, but I did at the beginning of the year open briefly at lunchtimes. We did some school trade, but basically it was just for 15 minutes of solid bags of chips, and really wasn't cost effective. So I'm just open at evening times.
I used to have summer and winter hours, and now it's just all year round hours. I am open at lunchtimes, 12 till 1:30 Monday to Thursday, 4 till 8 p.m. at night, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday I'm open 12 all the way through till 8. Lunchtime trade for me, they're okay. I think a Tuesday's a good day. There's the cruise ships come into Aberdeen. They tend to come up to Stonehaven. We've got Dunnottar Castle. Carron is the birthplace of Deep Fry Mars Bar. They like that as well. But the days are gone of school kids coming down. They're not interested in coming down to us. And workmen coming in as much. I would say my lunch trades are almost there to cover the cost of my staff doing the opening prep. So by the time my staff come in and do in the morning, do the prep and all that sort of stuff, my lunch trade breaks even to cover that cost. I have some staff that need a certain amount of hours, and that's how they get their hours. I would hate to lose them if I was to say, let's cut down the lunchtime hours. I think we probably all could say that the opening window for fish and chip shops used to be massive. I think now we're probably all under the realisation that you don't just work all the time. You need to make sure that you're working in the most productive hours and making as much money in as little time as possible. That's the best way. We're all here to run a business. That's what we're all trying to do. And I think now, if one or two members of staff, I could shift them about and change it, I might look into dropping lunch times. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would still always stay open 12 all the way through to 8. It definitely, more times than not, is worth my while, because even the cafes in the town, they aren't open as much or as late, and ice cream shops and all these sorts of things, they've all adapted their hours, and there's very few places actually open in Stonehaven at certain times of the day. And so sometimes we get the footfall of them all, which is worthwhile then.
Yeah. Have you got any lunchtime offers to get people in, or is it just your usual menu that you've got available?
It's just our usual menu. We do have a kind of a lunchtime thing we used to do for the workers. I am probably looking to rejig it and come up with something as we come into winter. I think the idea of meal deals coming into Tesco's and all these sorts of things, and we've got a Greggs in the town, these are what people are buying. Fish and chips as a meal is a good meal. It's a full meal. Even our small portions is a substantial full meal. So people are more interested in having a sandwich and a packet, because there's something a bit lighter at lunchtime than they used to be having a full meal to kind of get them through till tea time. As a generation, the whole thing, we're more interested in what we eat, and it's still a perception that fish and chips is fried food, and sometimes it's hard to get them away from that. But I think as the next 6 months, things will change for me at lunchtime, and I will try and push a bit more with winter coming in to try to get people in the door. If people are out walking about, you still get people coming in having chips and stuff like that. But as the really cold, dark, miserable weather comes in Scotland, and we know how hard it hits us here, especially if we're on the coast, we will need to maybe adapt and change a little bit.
It'll be interesting to see what you come up with there.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about using that time over lunchtime when you maybe don't have huge footfall to do some of the prep work. And essentially that's what our lunchtime trade was about, getting the shop ready for 4 o'clock. But when I had the opportunity to sit and think about my business strategically when we were closed down, I realised that by taking that wages out and just doing a bit of normal prep time an hour or so before opening up at 4 o'clock was more cost effective. But it also gave me a life again, because I wasn't tied to the shop from 11 o'clock in the morning with a silly little break in the afternoon and then back in again at 4 o'clock. And also the same for the staff. You know, where we are, there was no way we could open all through the afternoon. It would just be utterly pointless. So it was a split shift, and, you know, yes, it paid the wages, we got the prep work done, but we fell into that stupid trap. We've always done it this way.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems I think with the industry. We sometimes do say we've always done it.
Yeah, and said no, this can be changed, and also we were very inefficient with deliveries. So we used to get 2 deliveries a week from some suppliers that wasn't absolutely necessary, but we were always there, so it didn't really matter. Whereas now, a bit more organised, a bit more focused, and we're just open from 4 till 8 now, and it works.
Well, that's it. It's got to work for you, your business, and at the end of the day, your life. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Eddie, obviously, you're just back from holiday as well.
Yep.
You do something which I think a lot of shops probably shy away from, and you close down your whole shop for a week at a time throughout the year.
Yeah.
Do you just want to run us through what you do with that and the thought behind it?
Well, the thought behind it is we close every 13, 14 weeks. That gives us, 4 weeks holiday per year. That may change in the future as my son gets older and becomes more comfortable with the procedure of the business. But just now it suits us. It saves us employing somebody, trusting somebody to run the shop when we're away. You always hit problems when you're away, and you have to deal with them when you're on holiday anyway. So it just takes a worry, lets you enjoy your holiday. And for just now, it suits us. But I will change it in the future. My son becomes more familiar with the business. As I say, he's just learning now. He's 19, so wouldn't like to throw him in at the deep end just yet, but it will happen.
Yeah.
where he realises that yet. For the future, it definitely will. Probably be open all year round, but it suits us just now just to close and recharge the batteries that week you're off without the worry of somebody being in your shop, and obviously the overheads of paying them and their entitlements and that. So for the year and this year and probably next year, we will be closing every 13 weeks.
Yeah.
We shut down as well for holidays. We usually have 2 weeks over the Christmas period, and a week in the spring, a week in the autumn. We'll be closed this coming week for holidays. Prior to COVID, I carried a much larger team, and we used to stay open all the time. And I did do the sums. And the extra cost of the people to keep the shop open, the extra turnover we got, and all the rest of it, it was very, very finely balanced as to how cost effective that was. But it did give flexibility to staff holidays.
Yeah, absolutely.
That people could have time off any time, whereas now we've got these set weeks when we will be closed. People are free to take time off, and if they want to go on a week's holiday in June, so be it. But you may not have your full quote of holiday pay because there isn't enough to go around, because we will be shut on these days. And as Eddie says, something always happens when you're away. You just forget that something always happens all the time. It hurts more when you think you're off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that this way, everybody gets a break. And also, we did have one or two very enthusiastic members of the team who never got a proper holiday because they're always picking up shifts here, there and everywhere when we were open every week of the year. So now we can ensure that everybody does get all their holidays that they're entitled to.
Yeah. And do you guys put that out to all the staff at the start of the year so they know, or do you choose them throughout the year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They know this is...
I actually post it in the shop too for my customers, so they know when we're shut. Yeah.
Murray, is closing for a time ever anything you've considered?
Well, Jamie, as you know, I don't really ever get any holidays.
And if you believe that, you'll believe anything.
But Stuart, you've hit the nail on the head. Yeah, my phone rings non-stop on holiday. It's something I've...
Up anyway, whether you're there or not, it just grates a bit more.
Some of the things that happen, I get phone calls for. But I sometimes have to then take a bit of responsibility there and say, in which I've probably done in the last year, I've got to train my staff and my manager and my other senior members of staff to deal with these before they come to me. And in the last year, it's gotten better because, there's no point in having roles and responsibility and infrastructure if it all just comes straight back to me.
It's not just about the training. It's about creating a culture where people feel confident to make their own decisions.
Yeah. And that is it.
And if they get it wrong, don't get a bollocking, they get an explanation. Yeah, I understand why you did that. That was a great idea, but... And maybe next time, and learn from it. But the danger is that they become frightened to make their own decisions. So they pick up the phone and ask every single time, every single thing. But to give them that wee bit of headroom to make their own decisions, make their own mistakes, and as long as it's not catastrophic, then.
I think when I was in Australia, I went over for my friend's wedding in Australia. That was probably the only time there was a real difficulty because we're in major time zone differences, 11 hours of differences. When the shop's shut, I'm awake. When I'm asleep, when the shop's open, it became a case of that's probably when I majorly thought we need to change some of this. Some of it was fine. They made a decision. They texted me, but by the time I got back to them, they'd already made a decision. But I've got that much staff that it wouldn't be worth my time or hassle to close. The shop runs efficiently, makes enough money whilst I'm not there. And it means that little things, I was in a christening in Romania for my nephew a couple of weekends ago, don't have to shut shop. It still goes open. We've got the fish and chip van now, which we've had to close because it's my partner who runs it. But we're currently training a member of staff to run that so that when we go on holiday, that can still go out as well. We've kind of kept that simple, and because it was our first year having it, I kind of wanted to just keep things basic with it. I didn't know what kind of level it was going to do, if it was going to be worthwhile, as you say, to open when we're away. We're now at that point in time, it is going to be worthwhile. And so we're going to get that trained and up and running.
No, brilliant. Definitely. Obviously, you've got the bigger staff anyway, so the bigger group of staff. So if they are running the shop and giving you the time away, then especially if you've managed to train them in a way that they are able to make decisions without your say so.
Yeah, it sometimes is, as you say, Stuart, you can't give them trouble if they make the wrong decision. I've kind of got a rule of thumb. If no one's been hurt and it's not affected the customer experience, then it's not a major issue. You know, as long as I can deal with it, if we've had to adapt and improvise, I don't mind picking up the phone. I've gotten better at it when I'm away on holiday. I'm with the kids. That's my time with them. I work hard when I'm here. They understand my phone rings a lot when I'm at home. When I'm on holiday, I try to say, look, this is my time away with them. So I have said to the staff, like, you need to deal with things, especially if it's minute and not going to really affect the day or affect the business or affect the customer experience. If it's something to deal with a supplier, you all know how to phone the suppliers. You all have numbers. Phone them up and give them their due. The last 6 months has been great. I've come back from holiday. There's always still a little bit of an abundance of paperwork or something I'll have to deal with. But I've now taken that into account. And normally, even when I come back, I take the first day off, and that's just to catch back up. Because if there's something falling behind or something I need to deal with or someone I need to phone, I'm not in the shop trying to work at the same time as doing that, and my head's not in the right place.
No, brilliant, guys. Patties. So it's been a good start of the potato season. How have you guys found price and quality of your potatoes so far? Are you all preparing your own? Are you all rumbling in the shop? Or does... No? Pre-prepped?
Yep.
Yeah.
I do my own. I rumble in the shop.
Yeah. How have you found your potato quality and the price so far?
This year, the price in the last months, it's come down. Quality's starting to go up. Quality's starting to look a wee bit better. Try to get sustainable potatoes, red tractor, and quality is quite good just now. I think we're in Oliver's, Tree Farm, Ely, Cambridgeshire, £14 a bag. I think that's maybe it's £2 cheaper than what we were paying 2 months ago. So I think prices are coming down. That's in the West Coast. I don't know what price you're paying in the East.
We're £14 a bag. I am. Well, this week I am. I have been for the last God knows how many weeks. We spend a lot of time going and seeing the farms. I think it's important. There's the host Isle of Ely Day, which is out there sometimes, but I prefer to go and see my farms direct. I get a better feel of what's going to go on with the potatoes that I'm buying, because every farm grows different potatoes. There's loads of different varieties out there. But for us, it's been a good year so far. There's always a changeover period onto new potatoes. We go into the Spanish potatoes throughout the summer. When you come over to new potatoes, they never are the best. They don't keep as long. If you're getting them out quick and easy, which is fine because it's still the end of summer, it does help. But if we had a bad week of weather and it would struggle. But now you're near the main crop. Well, probably in the next 3-4 weeks you'll be onto your main crop of potatoes. And the sizing's fine. I know some shops are big into selling fritters, and that's going to have a bit of effect on them, probably looking how the growth's going to be for the year. For us, that's not an issue. We sell fritters, but not by the major portions. And so I'm quite happy with what's going on. My merchant has someone who inspects and does checks on the potatoes before they buy them, which not everyone does. But for us, that kind of helps put our mind at rest.
How have you found the pre-prepped chips? The price for them, are they coming in okay?
The price doesn't really move.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a price for the whole year. And on the one hand, we were paying $1.60 a kilo. It sounds like it's horrendously expensive, but that's for chips, not potatoes.
Yeah.
No soil, no green, no stones.
Absolutely.
And no washing up.
That's it.
And because we're not open lunchtime, that's when I used to do the spuds.
Yeah.
There was some that get the bulk of the prep work done, and then the cleaning up, and the be hooves on one staff and somebody else finishing off the potato prep. Don't do that anymore. So what I did was I costed out how long it took me to prep my chips.
Yeah.
From start to finish. From opening the first bag, the rumbling, the chipping, the rinsing, the dry whiting, blah, 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 all the cleaning up afterwards and putting everything back. And once you'd added a wage back into it, we're not a million miles away.
No.
And it does, I find, it takes some of the stress out of potato prep that, the days of over-prepping because you think you're going to be busy.
Yeah.
And then, especially in the summertime, the warm ambient temperature, got all kinds of problems. There's always a wee bit of buffer sat there through in the chiller.
Absolutely.
That if you're busy, you shift them. If you're not busy, you use them tomorrow.
Absolutely. And how long ago was it since you made that change?
4 years now.
Yeah. Like you say, it also frees up you. You're not having to be stood there rumbling and chipping. And
although, in fairness, it really was one of my favourite jobs, actually.
Yeah.
I really quite enjoyed it because I got left alone because nobody would come into the prep room because I thought they were going to get a job to do, whereas I was just doing there, film my spuds on my own,
absolutely.
listen to the radio. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
But the reality is that with us not doing lunchtimes anymore, it's taken a chunk of the prep time out. It also does mean we can be a bit tighter on staffing because on some of those days, you always like to have somebody in reserve that could go and rumble a bag of tatties if you got hit with a rush. And we don't have to take that into consideration anymore.
Absolutely. And I think in preparation for this, I spoke to some English shops as well, just to try and bridge the gap between the Scottish prices and English prices. And down in England, currently, they're paying anywhere from £8.50 to £10.50 a bag. So, Murray, I know we've had a conversation about, obviously, the difference in price, but I don't think a lot of people understand why. Or you want to explain what the difference in the prices is caused by?
The major cost of it's transport. We go down, there's 27-ton Arctic lorries bringing these potatoes up, and it's not always as easy as you're driving from A to B. When you're driving lorries and that, they're not the easiest thing to drive. The drivers have got time limits they're allowed to do. We've been down to see the potatoes multiple times, and to see that, especially in the winter time, they've got to figure out ways of storing the potatoes and find places they can store the potatoes. If they've went over in the hours, they've now got to pull over. They've got to now get blankets and find somewhere warm and dry to keep them from obviously getting affected by the frost. And even in Glasgow, I think, which is a couple hours away from us, they're still £2-3 a bag cheaper than us. And it just shows you that coming up here, as far as it is, and I know you can go even further north than we are, we're not even, I would really consider that far north, as much as in the industry we probably are. It's just a constant passing cost. And with the likes of fuel going through the roof in the last couple of years, when they had all the lorry drivers on strike and all these sorts of things, it didn't help push our potato prices. It kind of ruined it for all of us. And it'll be a constant battle always, because down south, if you're next to a farm in Cambridgeshire, which we go to in Ely, which you say you got your tatties from, Eddie, that's exactly kind of the same area we get ours from. If you've got a shop there, you can buy direct from the farm. I know our merchant has their margin, and then Jenny, who inspects the potatoes and does the testing of the potatoes, testing for dry matter and sprouting and all these sorts of things, the sizing and grading, she has her margin to get. Then we've got the farmers. It's a constant cost going up. Now, I have no objection to it, because if there's one thing, I don't know if you've all been down to see the farms, the farmers are actually very open and honest about their costs, their profits, their margins. Versus the fishermen, especially, are a very close, tight-knit community, and you don't get allowed a lot. If we go to the Peterhead Market, we don't get to hear a lot about what's spoken, if I could even understand what's said sometimes. But the farmers are brilliant. They'll open their doors. They'll talk to you about what they paid for their seed, what their cost is to do it, how much profit they've made per ton. And then that gets pushed on to Jenny, who buys the tonnage from them, who then John from WM Fraser's, he buys the tonnage from Jenny and ships it up to us. And we know exactly along the way the lines where their costs and where their margins are. Sometimes it's very good. Sometimes it feels like we're maybe being robbed a little bit. But then there's other times where you think, well, okay, they're holding on as well as best as they can before they put their prices up. They're a bit like us. We're at the forefront, trying to hold on to putting that price rises. Sometimes they are as well.
Again, I think it's about keeping in contact with your supplier, just letting them know, because you can get cheaper potatoes. if he gets to know what quality you expect, and you talk to him regularly, speak to my supplier twice a week, it lets them know the quality they want, and they'll just keep on top of the ball for you. They'll try and give you the best. But you've just got to keep in regular contact with your supplier. I say you can get cheaper potatoes, but if that's what you want to put out, it's up to yourself. You pay for what you get at the end of the day, and transport side it is just it makes it dearer in Scotland.
And I know that there are some shops that use Scottish potatoes. Obviously, our wetter climate, the temperatures means they aren't there for chipping, that they aren't the same product as the English potatoes, which have got that drier climate. Do you guys ever have customers ask you why you don't use Scottish potatoes?
Yes, I do. You know, there's a lot of potatoes grown round Forfar, and I just explain to them about the ambient climate, the conditions, and also say that they'll probably our potatoes were probably grown from Scottish seed, because this is the northeast of Scotland is one of the finest seed producing areas in the world, and they should take pride in that.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, the wear tends to be the waste product from the seed crop, and it's treated as such. And one of the problems is they're not prepared to store them because they've got it in their head about keeping seed potatoes cool, and they do the same thing with the wear. So sometimes it's not just the climate, it's the way the product's stored when it comes out of the ground that I don't think is fully appreciated. That means that we do get this huge gap in quality between the English potatoes, and they're just focused on frying and chipping and making a product that will work for us. Whereas around here they're focused on growing high quality seed.
I had a 10-year-old boy in the shop yesterday asking me what potatoes I used and if he could supply me. Very enthusiastic until he asked, how much potatoes do you use a week? I said, on average, about a ton of potatoes a week. No, I don't think my back garden's got that in it. But we spend a lot of time with speaking to our potato merchant, John. Sometimes speaking about potatoes, sometimes speaking about business, sometimes speaking absolute rubbish. But we've been down to, I don't know if you've been down to Caythorpe. It's kind of a potato merchant's dream for where they go down, and it's an area where they show what is happening, what's new in the industry, and the breeding process, not the actual breeding process, but what they're trying to breed and grow in different varieties of potatoes, salad potatoes, baked potatoes, plain white potatoes, chipped potatoes. And we went down there, I think it was last year, Jamie, was it? Yeah. We went down there and we spent a day with the farmers, and they're dressed in their farmer attire, very, very stereotypical, we could say. Me and Jamie probably stood at like sore thumbs with our jeans and our trainers on. But they came over and they spoke us through and asked, what industry are we in? And they took us over, we were in fish and chips, they took us over to the chipping side, and they showed how, I think it was Eternity, it was one of the new breeds they're trying to grow, and there was the Firth as well, and how they kind of take it from the seed, which you're saying, Stuart, is brilliantly grown up here, and they maybe grow half a field one year, maybe half an acre. Then the next year, by the time they sprout it and they use it again, and they grow it into an acre, and they grow it into 2 acres, then 4, and it doubles and multiplies. And how they're trying to combat the growth problems, the tubing problems, the pesticide and the parasite problems. So there's a lot goes into it that sometimes when people think it's just potatoes, and the average person maybe has a chip pan at home or they buy rooster potatoes at the shop, doesn't see the absolute science and work and the years. I think from the original seed of crossbreeding to almost full production, I think takes nearly 7 years. That's 7 seasons of sampling a product which might never make it to a supermarket shelf, might never make it into a chip shop. So it might just be 7 years wasted. There's a lot of money goes into it.
Yeah, no, it is. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that an average fish and chip shop owner, as well as customers, don't consider, especially when we look at the price that we're paying. But no, overall, it's looking like it's going to be quite a positive year for potatoes.
Yeah.
Eddie, you've just recently changed your chip block, haven't you?
When I was on holiday in Turkey, I was listening to one of the podcasts to do with the weighing the chips. And Stelios was saying if you have to weigh French fries to standard 14 to 17, you obviously get more French fries. It was the same weight. So I moved down to I was going to change my blades anyway. I had the space of boxes. I said, I'll just order another blade. And I moved down to the 14x14 to give it a try. It did give you more per portion, so you were saving. I reduced my cooking times slightly, not too much, but I did reduce them slightly. But I still prefer the traditional, and I changed it back on the Wednesday. So I went with the Monday and the Tuesday. I changed it back. Changed it back to the 14 to 17 on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
It just looked better.
But giving it a go.
I did. I gave it a go.
Hope you weren't shut Monday, Tuesday.
No. No, I just didn't. It didn't sit with me. I did change it. I gave it a go. To be fair, maybe suit some people, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, well, I do know a good friend of mine, Charlie Collins. He's just reduced his chipping block as well, and he's saying that it's worked wonders for him, and he's saving, a few bags a week in potatoes, still putting out the same volume. So yeah, no, brilliant to give it a try.
For all it takes, it's only about 10 minutes to change a chipping block. It was no problems. I just prefer the size of the 14 to 17 size.
No, absolutely, no, brilliant. But we'll move on. Social media. You all use social media within your business. How important do you find social media for your business? Do you see an actual increase in trade from participating? And if you don't participate, do you see a drop off?
Well, I think it's one of those things, it's out there now and we all have to use it, but I don't see it as making a huge difference to the actual overall turnover. But I think you need to keep a presence out there just to subliminally remind people that you're there when they're thinking about having a takeaway. And I think to use it as a way of engaging with the community, like we were saying earlier on about coming in and having a chat in the shop, it's not about sell. It is about just, this has happened, there's something funny happening in the chip shop, or isn't it a bonny sunset, or did you see such and such, or well done to the local football team for winning. And just keeping your presence in people's minds rather than it being a direct selling tool. That's my take on it. And I'm kind of waffling here because Lynn's my wife, she runs all that sort of thing. I just don't do Facebook or any of that kind of stuff. But she keeps asking me for content, so I keep sending her random pictures from stuff that's happening in the shop. And we get the most engagement from things that aren't directly related to trying to flog the customer something. But I think it is an important way of just reminding people that you're there.
I think for me, it's made a big difference for me, especially being a new business, only 2 years old. It's silly things. You can look back at your views and see how many folks viewed your social media, and it's just silly things that can draw real attention, like chips coming out the rumbler or out the peeler, or changing oil in my chip pan. It's just silly wee things that draws attention. Maybe you win an award or a big community project or something that's maybe going on, you put it in your social media. It's anything you can put up. And Stuart says it just keeps you out there, and if you get the community involved too, they share it and pass it on.
I got a couple of people last week commenting on, that was a bra shot of you boiling out the pans the other day with Ceres pan cleaner, obviously. And, but, it was just something different that was going on in the shop, so Lindsay took a picture of it, she posted it up, and I got a great response. And also, we're just reminding people that it isn't just 4 to 8 o'clock we're in there, we're doing a fair bit of graft out with those hours as well.
Yeah.
I probably have a varying difference of views depending on the day with social media. 10 years ago, social media was everything. And it really was absolute everything. Facebook, Instagram, maybe not so much Instagram, but Facebook was, you got interaction galore. Every single photo you put up got likes, interactions. Nowadays, it's just different. I think nowadays, social media is great and you'll get your 15 minutes of fame at some point in time. That's you're waiting to go viral for something. If I used to look at my social media posts for the last year, it's okay, but I've got 6,000 followers, people, and an average 20 to 100 likes, depending on what the post's about. So That's 1 in 60 people seeing a picture, but if I don't get any engagement or interaction from it, how much are they looking at the picture? You see some of the stuff that people look on social media, and it's just a picture of a cat in a basket. Is that worthwhile if someone comes in, clicks on my photo, and then goes straight off it straight away? No, I need to see a response from it. We have done in the past giveaways and giveaway lots, and we've had hundreds, thousands of people interact with it. If I go do that now, I'll maybe get 60, 70 people enter. And I've done it to the point where I've had winners selected because it's all randomised, and they've never came and collected a prize. And you think, well, what did you enter for? It's a little bit different. I think the amount of social media out there and the amount of platforms there is out there, it's hard for you to really get someone to really interact. If I go into my business profile and look, they'll say thousands upon thousands of people look at this photo, but in reality, there's just moved from that photo to the next photo, or that video to the next video. There's X or Twitter, whatever it's called these days. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's TikTok. I've seen people using Snapchat for things as well. My kids will show me things on Snapchat, people advertising stuff on that, and you think it's just about really trying to get your target base, and it's hard to find that now. I think we can all, I'm sure we've all heard of Binley Mega Chippy, how one kid created a song for that, and all of a sudden for weeks and days it was queued out the door.
You want it? How does that go again?
I've not had enough to drink yet to be able to start singing for that. You have to pay me to serve the DJ on the podcast. Plus, I think we probably get cancelled by Stylers very quickly. But yeah, I think the young girls in my shop, they love TikTok, and they're always trying to get me to do it. I'm a little bit out of that age group now. I don't know what's relevant. I know how to do Facebook and Instagram, and I'm quite happy there. They'll come at me and, can we do TikToks? And my number one rule is, that's fine, you guys do it. Why? Well, because they want to see you guys in it. They don't want to see a middle-aged man pulling his back by bending over. It's just, it might give someone a laugh, but I don't want to be the laugh at someone's expense. So it's just one of these weird things that I don't push it as hard as I used to. I really don't. And I wouldn't say it's affected my business whatsoever. I've had the shop for 14 years. Eddie, you're saying you're new, brilliant. I think it's a great thing for you to do. You've got 2 years in it. You're pushing the awards. I think it's great for you to go out there and show the public your background. My general public and most people that shop my shop weekly know what happens in my shop because I've spent years talking about it. Every now and again, I put up a reminder. As you say, Stuart, it's not always about what's fully trying to sell something. It might just be something about going down and see our potato merchant, or it might be where the Fishman came in today and seen us. Or one of my biggest engagements actually always is my staff night out. It's one that people, I think, just they kind of find it a bit more relatable to. You'll know yourself if you sit and speak on your phone and you talk about dog food. Next thing you know, on your phone pops dog food. So if people are speaking about food and all that, next thing you know, what pops a McDonald's advert, a KFC advert, all these other things that appear that you can get lost in it very quickly. And I think it's hard. I think that's probably what works better now. It's not actually pushing the food side of things. It's pushing that we're family businesses, that we're people that are part of the local community, that have a sense of humour, or maybe we don't, I don't know, maybe my staff would tell me I don't have a sense of humour, and we're more relatable rather than, here's a picture of our food, because there's lots of good fish and chip operators out there that take lots of good photos and do lots of good things. I think the difference has got to be you've got to appeal to your direct customers, who are the people who are going to see you, who are going to actually meet you. You're not a celebrity to them, you're just Murray, Eddie, Stuart that work in the shops. You've got to kind of appeal to them in that side of nature.
But it's frustrating when you put a lot of time and effort into putting these posts up and you see 10 likes, no comments, and it does get you down.
The less thought we put into them, the more response we seem to get. Just the randomness. Although we did get good response from a well-planned post the weekend there. One member of staff was celebrating being with us for 15 years, so that got quite a nice bit of response. Yeah. So we'll put that up, But generally speaking, it's just something random and strange happens, or it's just like caught in the moment when I was boiling the pans out the other day, and Lindsay just took a snap and up it went, and it got good response. But then you think about, we're going to do such and such, we'll do this, we'll do that, and plan it months in advance, and as you say, 3 legs.
I think for me as well these days, social media used to be about connecting people and really showing off and promoting stuff. There's a lot of negativity in the world when it comes to online nowadays.
Definitely.
And I don't like it. I really don't. We've put up, we're in for the Scottish Awards, and someone came up saying, I don't like your fish and chips. We're just trying to celebrate a little wee small victory, or the fact that staff work hard and we're putting that time and effort in. Sometimes you can see it when we're in the shop and something's behind the scenes. Do you really need to comment that on which is supposed to be a good moment for us? Pick your moments, and unfortunately,
if somebody want to bring you down.
Well, yeah, and I don't.
Definitely.
If you maybe whatever you're into, whatever you click on, you maybe read some comments on it. Most of the like comments are negative comments on something or a dig at someone, and you think, I like to be a positive person in the world. I really do. I'm always trying to push that. I love looking at the brighter side of things. I think life's too short. Why are you wasting time with negativity? I don't like that that's what social media has become. It's a platform, something's out there for people to criticise you when they don't know anything about you or the work you've put in or the time, the tears, the blood, the sweat, the sleepless nights. They don't realise that, and they can come and criticise you and start up something in 2 seconds that's not fair.
I was reluctant initially for us to do social media. I said to Lindsay, it's a double-edged sword, there's great potential, but there's also a lot of nastiness could come your way. And I think if you're going to go out and put yourself out on social media, you have to be a bit thick-skinned. You are going to get these negative people, but that's their problem, not yours. I know we used to put things up like, what's your favourite supper, on a Friday night, and the number of times people would say a fish supper from another fish and chip shop. Like, I said, get a life.
Yeah, that's what I don't like, and it's good when it's good, but when they've got things like that, you're sitting at home and you get a comment at 10 o'clock at night. You go, well, see what's on my phone. You get that, you think, I'm sitting at home on a Friday night, 10 o'clock. I've worked a busy day. I don't really need to be dealing with this.
Yeah. I think you do have to be quite thick-skinned about it. And, like anybody, it is like being in public life. You have to be thick-skinned that people are going to be out there having a pop at you, whether it's justified or not. And you've just got to park it and forget about it.
Yeah.
Take it in the chin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, guys. Right, coming away from social media, looking at your menus, Scottish menus always tend to be probably bigger than your traditional English chippy. Have you guys looked at adding different components to your menu, diversifying it to take away customers from fish, or just adding something extra to maybe get that younger generation in? Obviously, I know you guys have all said that fish is your main seller, but have you added anything else, maybe try to get that younger generation in, or to take the burden off of the amount of fish?
Well, I've just added sides, just as I said earlier, just to get the kind of younger generation in, and that seems to have helped. And I do like kids' meals; they seem to take off too. Kids' meals with a free drink. The sides is it's an add-on. The suppers too, but a lot of the kind of younger generation, they like just to come in just solely for the sides. Loaded fries, I've added loaded fries, which is quite a big success. You have got to change, try to keep it traditional. With the change, if you know what I mean.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we've kept it very traditional. In the past, we did expand the menu and doing a lot of different side orders as well. And I felt that the volume didn't justify the level of work that we were putting ourselves through, and we ended up selling less and less of more and more. And when we trimmed down the staffing levels, it became harder to manage a large menu. And also, the bigger the menu, the more opportunities there were to make mistakes. So I felt we were becoming less efficient. So we have kept, but we listen to customers, and if enough people ask for something, we give it a go and we run with it. And that's when we will maybe do a bit of trying to flog directly on social media. Hey guys, we've listened, and we'll run it for a few months. If it sells, it stays. If it doesn't, it dies.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
We've got quite a diverse menu. We cater to nearly everyone. We've got vegan, got gluten-free, you've got the traditional things. I think as a menu as a whole, we're traditional. Your fish, your pudding, sausages, chicken, king ribs, mock chops, pineapple fritters, all those kind of things. I think when it comes down to it, I use my weekend specials to more target the younger generation. We'll do katsu chicken curries, we'll do salt and pepper chicken, we'll do sticky sesame chicken, we'll do, at Christmas time, I do Yorkshire pudding Christmas wrap type thing. That probably is where I push more towards the younger generation. In the next 6 months, though, I am going to, and I spoke to some of the staff yesterday, I'm going to probably change what I do in the menu. I haven't adapted my menu in forever. I've added a couple of things, which would be the vegan option, gluten-free option, but I actually haven't decided, something that I sell only a few of a week, do I need to have it on anymore? And the answer is no. I want to make it as small and minute as possible, the menu, because it streamlines things when I'm busy. If I can make it a simpler, easier option for my staff to be able to put out faster, quicker options for the customer, that's what I think is the best option for me. And so for the first time in 14 years, we'll be redesigning the menu, I don't mean redesign by how it looks, but what is actually there for the customer to pick. And I'm going to go and spend the next 2-3 months seeing if there's something I can go and put out there that's a little bit different, to try and captivate a little bit more of the younger generation, and as well as tap into markets which are on trend just now. If you go back maybe last year, it was smash burgers. Just now, it's loaded fries is definitely the one on trend. But sometimes to try maybe see for something coming up and say, right, well, can I get that? And as we spoke just before about social media, get something to go a bit viral. If I'm maybe one of the first chip shops doing it, maybe I'll become a little bit viral with it. I'll get my 15 minutes of fame and go get a little bit of a boost from it, because although awards and all these sorts of things in social media are great for getting your name out there, there's very few things now I see give my business a major boost. And so I've got to work a little bit extra hard to kind of find something that's going to put me back on the map from people that don't already know where I am. I'm trying to get someone to really make the worthwhile journey to my shop, which with the social media aspect of it, as well as maybe being ahead on a trend with food, you might just get there first and you might become the place known for it, and it could really stick and set you up for years to come.
Yeah. Have you had a think about what things you're going to remove from your menu?
Yeah, there's a couple of traditional things. I haven't any set in stone, but I just want to try and make it more easy. And I know there's going to be someone that comes along and says, oh, have you got this? No, I don't. I mean, I keep it nice and simple, because I'll be quite open and honest about this one, is I will get rid of jumbo sausages and it'll just be sausage. Nice and simple. And I know, yes, I sold plenty of jumbo sausages, but the sausages that we get from Jumbo and Small are the exact same sausage. They're made by our local butcher 100 yards away from our shop. It's the exact same sausage. So when someone comes in for a sausage supper or jumbo sausage, will say it's just sausage supper. It also helps because the amount of tourists we have, the bigger the menu have, they get very caught up in looking at it, so it's all confusing for them. But I've now got my staff to just, when tourists come in, and you kind of quite easy to identify them, because the Scottish people are wearing shorts and t-shirts and it's 10 degrees outside, versus the tourists have got the jackets, the hats and the scarves on. We just say to them, hi there, is there anything we can help you with? Is it fish and chips you're looking for? 99% of the time they just say yes. That's what they're looking for. And I'm trying to make it that much easier all round for customers. If they're coming over from the West Coast, there might be something over in the West Coast they're used to, and our menu's so big and complicated, it just slows things down. I keep it nice and simple and easy for customers to look at, plain and simple. It helps make their choice simple, and it helps make our job cooking it simple.
If you're a stranger coming, or not local, rather than stranger, huge menus are quite intimidating.
100%.
You get like rabbit in the headlights. What should we be picking here? What should we be picking? And Lindsay keeps saying, "Oh, why don't you try selling this? Why don't you try selling that?" And it sounds like a great idea on a Monday night at 6:30. But I know it is going to really mess things up at 5:30 on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and probably Sunday as well. And you can't say to people, you can only have this on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They're not going to really go in for that. So yeah, you have to kind of think about how does it fit into your business overall, is it doable? Or is it sustainable throughout the whole week? And quite often I have to say, maybe not.
I would agree with that, because like some of my sides, I cook them the spaghetti baskets, and sometimes on a Friday and Saturday my pan's full of spaghetti baskets.
That's
So I agree with you there, Stuart.
Yeah, when we did have a larger menu, we used to call it the secret menu because it wasn't actually part of the main menu. It was an additional menu that we had printed off. And I thought there must be some kind of psychology of food here, because there were certain customers and they were going for the item count in their meal. The more bits they could put into that box, the happier they were, which was great for them. But see, when you're trying to produce that order along with all the other stuff when it's in full flight, and you say you've got 6 little baskets in there that you've put 3 of this in and 4 of that and 6 of that and 5 of them, and it's all count, time, and there's fish orders coming in all the time, and you lift all these from the basket out, you put it out, and then either I've miscounted, I'm a chicken nugget short, or they drop one on the bloody floor. Yeah, great on a Monday night at 6:30, but when we're actually steaming along doing our real job, I do question the value, personally.
Yeah. Well, I think we'd finish off speaking about the Scottish Awards. Congratulations to Murray and Eddie, who are both shortlisted for the final.
Thank you.
These awards, obviously, they come under a bit of scrutiny because they're run by a marketing company. What is all of you guys' take on these awards?
Right, so as I haven't got a vested interest, I'll speak first. Anything, as long as the award is of relevance to our industry, that helps raise standards and raise awareness, I'm all for. Crack on, well done, guys. And anything that gets people talking about fish and chips has got to be good news. So I'm quite positive. I know, it's run by a marketing company, blah, 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 and all the negativity that can sometimes go with that. But hey, it's getting people talking about our industry. It's raising you guys' profile. What's not to like?
For me, the awards, they are good. They're good. They're good fun, some of them. I've done different levels of awards from different companies and different various things, and they've all got something they're wanting to tick boxes. I mean, this year I'm up against, obviously, Eddie for Scottish Family Business. So if I win that, the Scottish Family Business is brilliant. If I don't win, then they're terrible. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
That's the way.
No, that's it, exactly. No, that's it. But for me, I enjoy it. We go for the night out, meet some people, meet different people from different areas sometimes. And I think in Scotland, we've never had much of a push for anything to do with fish and chips. And I think this awards here, at the time of the year where shops are getting a bit quieter, it's a good publicity stunt. Not just for the company doing it, it's a good publicity stunt for all of us. There's always going to be flaws with everything in it. And I do like the idea of kind of Eddie saying everyone will get their turn. I think that if a shop wins an award, they probably shouldn't be allowed to win the next year. Now, I know what someone's going to say. If I go and win, prime example, I won Best Fish Supper in the North East last year, and I'm in for it again this year. That's through public vote, though. But I've not got that big an ego. If I go and, let's say, another shop in the North East wins it this year, and I wasn't allowed to enter, my ego isn't going to say, well, how did they get it because I wasn't allowed to enter. I think you're helping push the industry. You're helping a business grow. If one shop goes and wins it year on year out, well done to them. Good on them. They've obviously put the time, the effort, the hard work in. But if we're trying to get these awards out to the public and really try to boost the industry as a whole, we need to get it more widespread than saying one shop in Stonehaven wins every single award. That just isn't going to help the industry. Isn't going to help push Scottish fish and chips. It's going to help push their shop. Of course it will. And when it comes to it, we're all trying to run a business. But when you want to say, let's make this awards viable and relatable to the public, they've got to know about it. It's got to go widespread. It's got to go somewhere that people can say, I might be 200 miles away. Oh, I'm interested in the Scottish Awards. Oh, Scottish Awards are coming up this week. You want the customers to be relatable to it. Otherwise, it's just an internal thing which means nothing.
Absolutely. I think that although it isn't industry judges, that the marketing, obviously run by a marketing team, has a great benefit that it does get out to a lot more people. Obviously, this year they've taken on Daza, who's a Scottish influencer. So it's great to have that and have him share it on his profile, have him go out and do things with shops. So it the, having that put out to more people does boost fish and chips as a whole, which is exactly what you're saying, Stuart, is that the main benefit of it.
Definitely. It's anything that gets people talking about our industry and our product in a positive light has got to be good. And as Murray said, it's also an opportunity to meet up with people in the same job as you, because quite often it can be quite a lonely job. You know? You're standing there in your shop and you think you're the only person in the world that has these problems. And then you go to an industry event and you realise that, we're in this together. You're not the only one that has to suffer these highs and lows, so to speak. I always remember going to an exhibition, I think it was actually at Donington, and I was looking at this frying range and just thinking about it, and somehow I was standing next to this other fish fryer and we got talking about fish cakes, and I says, what is it about fish cakes? You put one in the pan, you put another one in the other side of the pan, and before you know it, they've welded each other together. And he turned around and he says, that happens to you too. It's quite trivial, but it just highlights the fact that, we're all in this together. We all suffer the same kind of things, but you're not alone.
Yeah, I know. It's always good to have a nice social event up here in Scotland as well to get together. But yeah, perfect, guys. Scottish Awards will be a great event. Good luck to both you, Murray and Eddie. I'm sure it'll be a great night regardless. But has anyone else got anything else they'd like to add before we get finished up?
Yeah, one thing I'd like to bring up is this thing about pricing. And we've all had customers say, oh, fish supper used to be a cheap meal. It's not a cheap meal anymore. Blah, 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 blah. Now, when I bought my first shop, that was back in 1985, back then we had what was in effect a national minimum wage. It was set by a thing called wages councils. And instead of it being a blanket wage across the entire economy, they set minimum wages for individual sectors of the economy. Now, we came under something called places of unlicensed public refreshment. And back then, I was charging for fish and chips roughly what the adult statutory minimum wage was. We are damn near 40 years down the line, and I feel I've lost a little bit of ground to national minimum wage when you take into account the value-added tax. So, in real terms, i.e. how long somebody has to go to their place of work and work to pay for a regular fish supper is where it was 40 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that regardless of the price, it's still a fantastic value meal.
Absolutely. And I think we're actually using significantly larger fish now. But the point is, in reality, how long you go to work to pay for a product is what it really costs.
Yeah.
We're an hour at minimum wage.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the perception that it is an expensive meal has been lost on that.
Yeah.
But I totally agree.
I think people just don't like seeing certain barriers being broken when it comes to prices.
I don't like certain barriers being broken when it comes to wages, but...
Well, exactly. So I think, breaking the £10 barrier was scary for a lot, and now it's just... But as I said earlier on, that the government put up the minimum wage to help the average person. They just don't often always realise the knock-on effect, which is ours goes up as well, because all the way down the line, wages go up.
Yeah.
But absolutely. Do you find that with people using card payments more and more, that they're less observant of your actual prices?
100%. 100%. They just tap and walk away. They don't even look at the receipts half the time. It's more people pay by cash that are changing. I had a lady come in and she came in with £10. Can I get a fish supper? It's just £11.50. I wouldn't even have came in here if I'd known that was the price. And I thought, well, that's the price, and two, there's two menu boards, one above behind me and one at the side menu. Well, if you're in the queue, I'm sure you've looked and waited for that. Do you still want to buy the product? The answer was yes, you still bought it. I think at the end of the day, we're not always a need, we're a luxury. We're convenient. Fish and chips is convenient. You could cook at home by yourself, or you can have someone cook for you, and that comes at a cost.
Yeah,
that's very true. We are 100% cashless, so we maybe don't get the same amount of comment when we put 20 pence on, because I know when it was cash, people come in with exactly the right money, and they got a fish supper last week for that amount of silver, and this week I'm looking for a bit more. Whereas now they just tap, as you say, tap and walk away. So we tend not to get that quite as much.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add before we finish it up? No. Brilliant. No, super. Thank you all very much for your time this morning. I've got to go away and sort out all the subtitles now. So.
Good luck. See you in a month.
But no, thank you all very much, and I'll let you all go and get on with the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Nice to meet you. Thanks. See you, Murray. See you, Stuart.
Yeah, I hope to see you at the awards.
Thank you. All right, same to you.
Good luck, guys. Good luck.
Cheers, Stuart.
And that wraps up another episode of the Ceres Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode, hosted by Jamie Russo and guests Murray Watson, Stuart Atkinson and Eddie Thompson. It's always a real pleasure bringing you these conversations and sharing the mic with people that genuinely care about this industry. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to sign up to our Ceres mailing list. We've got plenty of great competitions coming up, offers, festive surprises from now till Christmas. It's the easiest way to stay connected. Get in early because you get the deals, you get the competitions, and you also never miss the news or a podcast. As always, we're here to help your business thrive with great products, proper support, and real conversations. So until next time, take care and thank you again for listening.